healing that you want to reduce versus it was competing in the same space with the other mace tree items.
Yep.
And so now it has its specific identity as the anti-heal item you should be picking up when there's healing to be reduced, not just whenever.
So that'll be 150 gold on top of that one for the next patch. And that's all there is for items this week. So lighten the item department. So
yeah, it's mostly gods.
No item
this
changes.
week. How many gods? Are they in order?
6, and yes.
They look in order.
That's first then.
We'll start off with gods then, and the first one I'm going to talk about is going to be Bastet. Is the first one on this list today. Catcall is going to be the change, and it's going to be Bastet will now gain a stacking physical power buff each time a cat is killed by an enemy or structure. This will not trigger when the cats naturally despawn, stacks up to 3 times, and lasts 9 seconds.
Oh.
The stacking buff will provide
I thought it was
scaling
permanent.
up to 15 physical power per stack, and 21 to 45 physical power total if all the cats die.
Yes.
So you get extra
So
power
this is
for
very
your
targeted
abilities
towards
when
addressing
your
one of the
ult's
boss's
killed.
problems, which is her consistency with her ultimate.
I like the
In her
idea.
early game, her ultimate can be very powerful. It could also die really quickly. Late game, it often mostly just dies. And so having this ultimate that could, in
I think
theory,
that should
deal
be
massive
permanent.
damage and be very useful, but then just dying and not doing anything, made it so that Bastet players couldn't really judge how effective they were going to be in a fight. So now we're addressing that kind of inconsistency and that variance that she has by making it so that when the cats die and are defeated by players, she'll get a power buff that she can use on her abilities. And she's a high-scaling assassin, so her getting that bonus power is going to help her out regardless of what's happening in the team fight.
Okay, and like he says, it's only when those cats die to an enemy or a structure, not just at the end of their lifespan.
Yeah, so
right?
if they die at the end and they just kind of fade out of existence, then you don't get the buff.
There's
but
no
if
buff.
an enemy player last hits it, or if a structure last hits it, then that's when it happens.
Okay. How long does that buff last for, did we say? How long does that buff last for?
9 seconds refreshing every time a cat dies.
Okay, cool.
So the maximum time you could get, I think, is 18 seconds.
I mean, could you?
Kind of wish it was permanent.
Because it could die like the second you spawn it, and then the last one could die right at the end. And then
Makes
refresh
sense.
it. So you can actually have a long duration physical power buff.
Okay, that's Bastet. Next up is Hell. Well, we've been a lot of talk about Hell just lately, and she's going to be getting some nerfs this patch. We're going to start off with Decay, first of all. Decrease the explode radius from 15 units to 12 units.
Oh,
and updated
yes,
the
they nerfed
targeting
the
to
distance.
better display this radius for you guys at home.
Awesome. Good.
And
Thank you for the
Inspire
resub,
is the other
Knowledgeable.
change that's going to be happening here. Decreased
Knowledgeable.
movement speed for allies from 20
Yes, Hell nerfs, baby.
to 10%. However, Hell still receives
like
the
it.
full 25% movement speed.
Yeah, so there's a really long article that AJ wrote on his Tumblr that kind of goes into the deep dive of stats and why we changed her the way we did. But in general, she's been doing really, really well for a long time. Players in the last few patches have discovered this strength and been using it very effectively. And there were a few things that we changed when we reworked her that kind of helped her really stand on her own. That was like her additional wave clear of safety, the additional utility she brought to her team, the burst heal for herself that ended up being really good. And so we didn't want to take away anything from that. We wanted to look at the things that were a bit too much that she was giving utility-wise. One was her ability to splash out damage for free on the one. It was a wide radius. It being condensed is not only going
one
to
is
display better
annoying,
visually,
really.
the
Like,
explosion
super
radius is a
annoying.
bit more tighter, but you're not going to be able to get as much damage to the entire team. But the big change is that Inspire will only give your allies 10% movement speed.
Not 25.
It's still a long duration speed buff of 10
Sure.
seconds for, it's 6 seconds for 10% movement speed, and it still synergizes very well with Lotus Crown. But it won't be making it so that your team can vroom around with basically a heavenly wings on them.
Yeah, permanently as well.
But Hell still gets it because she needs that safety for herself.
And it's one of the characters that we're going to continue to look at as well going forward. If this isn't enough, we may touch other things. And if it's too much, maybe we'll tone it back.
Yep, definitely.
As always, let's look at Hell. Next up is Odin. He's on the list next. Odin. Ooh. Well, he's been dominating a little bit just lately, and we're going to be starting things off with, basically, it's his general, so we're going to be changing his movement speed at base value.
We're
It's gonna be
nerfing his
changing from
base movement.
375 to 370. Path
Thank
of
you for the
to
resubs.
Valhalla, which is his passive, we've actually decreased the
They
movement
nerfed his
speed per
passive
stack
too?
from 8% to
But they're nerfing
4%
movement,
of
but
this.
that's not the
And finally,
problem.
Raven
Like, he's
Shield
not even
will
a
decrease the
problem.
full shield bonus damage from 25% to 15%. What is the reason for all these changes, Palm?
So kind of a high level is we're going to be addressing a few other warriors this patch. So you'll see Robin and Sun Wukong, spoilers.
Right.
They're also on this list. And largely we're looking to address them as these strong characters that were limiting viability for other characters in the
What
solo
about
lane, as
Cucullin?
well as in the jungle role. Odin and Robin more specifically the jungle role, Sun Wukong more the solo lane. So we made
Cucullin.
targeted changes to all of them to address this. For Odin specifically, his movement speed was a little bit too high, allowed him to rotate very effectively. It was just on the high end of most characters in general. The passive allowed him to very quickly get in and out of fights. If someone died on the other side of the map, he could use that movement speed and power burst to really affect a fight somewhere else on the map. If a team fight was happening and a lot of people were dying, he'd actually get a lot of movement speed in power.
Make it not a global.
To limit his ability to escape and to engage. And then the Raven Shield, when it was non-damaged, you got bonus damage. You got 25% bonus damage on the actual explosion. We're reducing that to 15% so that when he's out of combat and trying to join the fight really quickly, when he's not going to be likely damaged by like a straight archer shot or a straight AoE ability, he's going to be able to damage you less. So Bird Bomb in most fights will actually deal about the same damage, but that ability to jump over a wall suddenly without being seen and be able to burst someone for really high damage is being toned down a bit.
Okay, so a little bit less damage, a little less mobility. We'll find out how that works out for Odin. Next up, we're going to be talking about Raijin is next on the list, and Raijin's going to get a little bit more love this patch. Because of Storm, we're going to increase the magical power scaling from 25% to 30%. And Raiju, we fixed an issue where Raiju would not trigger when hit while under immune effects like Aegis Amulet. Updated the description to specify Raiju triggers when hit by another damage source. So really this is just small fix, and on top of that, because of Storm power increase.
Yes. Basically, when we did a rework, we toned down a lot of his frustration factors, and we made him a lot more consistent, but he was still underperforming. We made some changes to help that a bit, and he's gotten a lot closer, but he's not quite there. So the Percussive Storm getting the additional scaling really helps him kind of compete with the other late game mages. 100% scaling to 120% scaling is what that is if you land all the shots.
Right.
So in the late game, he can be a lot more threatening, and that just helps him out even in the mid game when he has a few items built. Just make him a bit more powerful.
That doesn't change too much to Raijin. I think Raijin's okay, but like, this isn't going to make him really strong.
It felt weird that you were marking someone with this Raiju effect, but then you couldn't proc it because you're being immune to damage, even though you were hitting them with skills. So it's a bug fix that also makes him a bit more powerful as well.
Now, obviously, I'm going to throw you under the bus here a little bit. Raijin, like, obviously, we've seen a lot of times with Raijin, like, he's been buffed, and he's still getting tweaks to him now. How are we finding him doing? Is he doing okay?
He's doing okay. He's just a little bit underwhelming. In general, he's been a lot more consistent, and the big thing that we wanted to do with the rework was reduce his frustration. And with that frustration being reduced, now we can actually buff him a little bit more than we have been able to in the past.
Sure.
But yeah, he was underperforming a little bit. This change helps him just a hair, like kind of like
we're trying to get in there without making him go too far.
Yeah, because it's very easy to make this character go a bit too far because he does have a very powerful Team CC ultimate, and so this is just a nice nudge to help him be in more line with other mages.
Okay. All right. Raijin, I was going to say, but it's Raven. Next up, R-A-R-A. Raven, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, Pom mentioned it, but
more movement speed
first
nerfs?
of all. General, decreased the movement speed from 375 to 370 on Raven, but also Mystic Rush. We've decreased the damage mitigation buff from 40% on the ultimate to scale. It's going to be 20% to 40% as you level up this ability, and also increased the cooldown of this ability. It was 90 seconds, scaling down to 70. It's now going to be 110, scaling down to 90. So a big nerf on the ult there.
I didn't touch any of the damage, which is good.
Speed. He was just able to rotate really too effectively. He was able to go from
but you're going to take more damage, longer cooldowns, and you're slower.
We're just toning that back a little bit. And then the big thing that we wanted to change was the ability to level 5 dive and level 5 team fight. You could, as Robin, ult under a tower, sit there in the tower, just box him for a while, and walk out in the tower, and you're like 50% health, and it's fine. So we're reducing that damage mitigation so that there's a lot more counterplay option. He can't be as aggressive. Obviously, with that much damage mitigation, he can still be very aggressive, and he can still trade really well in fights, but it just won't be 40% effective. It'll be 20%. And it will scale back up so that late game hits mostly the same in terms of his ability to survive in a team fight, but we're also making it so that he's using it less often, so that in the team fights, when he's actually using that ultimate, you can time that with other ultimate abilities and other cooldowns so that you can actually deal with it a bit better.
Okay. Sol is next on the list, and Stellar Burst. We added a new targeter to Stellar Burst to show where it will fire when it will stop at a target. Sorry, that's just really well.
So this was a community request. They wanted the ability to see where, if you activated Stellar Burst, where you're going to throw it and where it would stop. Similar to Opwash with his zombies, if you were to use a targeter, it's a line targeter with a circle that shows where it's going to stop.
It moves
so
out.
Now you can actually see where you're going to throw that on Stellar Burst.
So you can see what if it's going to hit an archer or not at the back line, or if it's going to hit the melee troop and not hit the archers, which we were aiming for.
They're just making it so the targeter is distance-based and not just max range all the time.
On the list of balance this week. Now, Sun Wukong, Pompon already mentioned, is going to get a bit of a change, and once again, its movement speed has gone down from 375 to 370 at base, but we've also touched Magic Cudgel and Master's Will. Both these abilities are going from
mic triggering anyone else, like the headset thing being turned uneven and like off to the left.
Sun Wukong's, again, the movement speed helps him so that he won't be able to rotate as quickly, especially because he already has a very quick movement ability with his Eagle form or his Tiger form or his Ox form.
And he got nerfed cooldown-wise.
But the big thing is his ability to, with
an item like Valor,
trade really
positively. Cucullin's really strong in the jungle.
The cooldown reduction was just a bit too hard to handle if you were trying to fight him. He would be able to like go into you, fight you, win a trade, and then come back like 7 seconds later, do it again, come back 7 seconds, do it again, and that pressure was a bit hard to deal with. So we're toning it back down. He's still going to be very strong in the solo lane. His clear remains untouched. In most like one-on-one trades, his ability to fight remains untouched. But when it comes to team fights and these extended engagements where Son of Kong's really excels at, he's going to be doing things a bit less often, so you have more room to actually deal with him.
Okay, and the final change this patch is going to be for Zeus. He's going to get a bit of love. It's going to be movement speed for him as well in terms of base movement speed. He's going to get an increase. It's going to go from 355 to 360.
Yeah, he stole it from the Warriors.
Is that what it works out at?
Nah, he would have to get like, he'd have to be 370, which would be really fast. But yeah.
So why do we do this?
He's a high damage, low mobility mage, and in general, his damage feels like it's good enough. He's just a bit underwhelming when it comes to other mages. He's underperforming overall, and so a light nudge to bring him a bit more mobility for positioning, a bit more mobility for rotating to other fights and skirmishes that happen around the map will help him actually get that burst damage out that he needs to.
Awesome. Well, that's all we've got time for in terms of the item balance. But this is the Odyssey patch.
Yes, there's a lot of cool stuff coming up.
Well, we should take a look at the Odyssey.
Let's go, baby. This is big.
War had begun. A battle between gods foretold to break the world. For most, this conflict would mean death. For those that survived, the unconditional worship of mortals. The jungle was dying. Choked of sunlight, bereft of rain, the mortals cried out to Chok for aid. Though try as he might, his axe would not split the sky. Into their despair walked Ares. He came seeking Anubis, but Chok had healed the jackal god and sent him west. Ares let loose his full and mighty fury. To aid the enemy of the god of war is to be the enemy of the god of war. A single tear slipped from Chok's eye. Never again would he see his beloved. Then, and only then, did the rain come. The people shouted the name of their savior. They shouted for Ares.
Wait, what?
Well.
You didn't tell us anything.
That was so intense.
To be continued. Does that mean we're going to see more of this?
Yeah.
Really?
No, it means that's the end, and we'll never do it again.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I've seen things on the radar before now. It wouldn't surprise me.
Like, literally, continued now means going forward or just stopping right there.
That is true.
Spot.
That is true.
We're going to have a unique video for every Odyssey patch.
On the desk, as usual, is Chuck, AJ, and Fishman. I'm going to go through the skins this week. But first thing we're talking about, first of all, is the Odyssey.
Oh, yeah.
So we've done the Odyssey a couple of times now. This is another revamp of the Odyssey this time round. What's the big theme behind this one? Clearly, it's to do with Ares, right?
Right. Well, it's not just Ares. We're just diving into the lore, the Smite, actual Smite lore. We're getting a lot more story background involving that. We're going to take off where the comic books left off. Going from there, so quick recap. Hel and Loki and Fenrir are causing a bunch of trouble. They've killed a couple gods. A couple of them are now trapped in the underworld, which is what happens to you when you're a god and you die in Smite lore. You get trapped in the underworld. You don't just die forever.
You're waiting for the respawn time, right?
And then the Odyssey story is going to follow the separating journeys of Ares and Athena as they both kind of try to solve all these problems, but in very different ways. So Ares is going to be obviously a little bit more aggressive. And Athena is going to be a little more logical.
Okay, and so like the previous Odysseys, how is it going to be very much like you can still buy the skins, you can also earn levels and things towards the skins?
Right, so the actual system of the Odyssey is going to work very similarly to last year.
Okay.
You can buy items to get points, or you can do your quests to get points. Either way, your points all add up, and that's what gets you your collection bonuses.
Right. Cool. All right, I'm looking forward to this then. But I guess we can start going to the skins, and then we're going to see in this next patch, right?
Yeah, let's jump on in. I think that's
straight into it. I mean, we're going to see more of the Odyssey as time goes on. I'm very excited about that. And some of these skins will be part of the Odyssey, which we'll get to. But first of all, it's Wild Druid Artio. This is the first one for you guys at home to have a look at. She looks great.
This one turned out amazingly well.
Let a pusher, yeah, just message me.
Tier 2. So you'll be able to buy this one.
Miss Original?
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah,
it's a
really
good
good. Thank you for the sub.
Yes, when I first saw that card, I was like, okay, that's probably
yeah,
not
the
tier
green's
2,
good.
It is.
Not a crazy skin, but I like the green better than all the other colors.
Tattoos here. Her crystal on the staff turned out really cool, and just kind of a darker color scheme.
She's got a little.
It was mostly an excuse to have a black bear.
And the bear looks...
Oh, is that what it was?
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you're honest about it, Chuck. I love it when you're in the show. You're just
Oh,
like, yeah,
super
that's to his
badass.
soul in the
like
green
it.
too.
And some
Yeah.
really
I
cool
like
markings
it.
on the bear.
Just like on her base, we brought in some of her coloration onto the bear, which looks awesome.
Yeah.
Does look really good. Obviously, because it's a tier 2, then it won't come with a voice pack, and it also won't come with different animations. But let's be honest, RTO's animations are fantastic anyway.
Yeah.
So-
And this is just a really cool color scheme and
My
really
baby
cool
Jesus,
armor
I
set
am.
on the art on the base.
10
art.
o'clock.
So obviously, with it being a tier 2, there will be a direct purchase, just so you guys at home know that too. As per usual. That's a nice little look at the RTO one. We can move along. We've not
Do
got many
Bear Wave.
skins today. Bear Wave?
That's my favorite animation like in the whole game.
The
Does he not own it? Oh.
Doesn't own it. Of course he doesn't.
That's an awkward one to
trick
own and rent. I'm
pun.
sorry. I baited the whole community.
Next up is Dark Summoner Noir. And Papa was mentioning earlier, we started looking at skulls and the such in terms of this. But this is the first Noir evil skin we've had, I
This is.
think.
Yes.
I know
So
somewhere
new,
in our art team, there's somebody who really likes skulls.
Now I try to keep the skulls as a reasonable percentage of distribution.
Right. One per
Um,
patch.
But when we have characters that we like to try to do the dichotomy, right, where we hit the
Ooh, what's-
opposite side of what the
looks like a
character's normal
vampire.
theming is,
Sure.
just because everybody it's the biggest change you can have, and it's kind of fun. And
God,
so
it looks so good.
Well, and plus the different sides appeal to different players. So if you give them whichever the side they didn't have, that might be the one that appeals to them. So
And we try to use, when we make something that causes us to have to do some different tech or animation or something, we like to use it again. So in this case, we had
look at that muzzle flash. That's so
yeah,
good.
we had
Pentagram.
done the beer noir.
Yeah.
Beer
And so
stein.
we were like, oh, we can do the candles. We'll just use the beer
Nice.
animations.
That makes sense. Yeah, I do like those animations early on. I will say, however, though, I'm just thinking, for any of you cosplayers out there, if you come into Worlds this year, you could do a Nox skin and a Noir skin and take off the Nox one and have the Noir underneath.
And then all you have
Just
to do
remove
is
the
juggle
mystery.
2 in
candles.
1. Cosplay 2 in 1. Bang.
And just Morrigan after that, right?
And the Morrigan, yeah, Morrigan. You're like,
Just
yeah,
keep taking off
I'm playing-
layers.
I'm playing the Morrigan, but you technically just go through all the other females
Oh,
in the
and
game.
so she's got
What are
these,
they?
they're like
Ooh,
demonic
Spawn them
mutant
away from
minions.
some stuff.
Yeah, I need
so they
to
don't
let me
go
see what they
running
look
The
like.
after
abilities
Don't run
different?
them off this
Other
time, Pop.
abilities?
Yeah, they like to
New
smash their
colors?
foreheads against things.
They'll find something.
Oh,
Yeah.
they look really fun.
Oh,
dope.
those are
So they're
pretty
kind of
fucking
devilly.
demonic.
They got some horns, some big spiky maces.
Yeah. Mace
The
wasn't
demon.
enough.
They're like, we're gonna find this Odin bot and we're gonna kill him, even though he's a.
What happens when they die? I don't remember, because I know they don't break apart into bits.
They just
They
rest
fall
off.
down. Blow them up.
The animating force
Right.
Blow them up.
departs
Pawn.
their mortal.
Let's see what they look like blown up.
Good
That was
colors.
more painful. It's got a nice clunk to it too. So.
There's some like little bow charts. that fly
Yeah.
out, too, which is
And then the best skill shot in the game.
Upon hit. That's good.
Well, yeah, actually,
Now,
Oh,
that's
purple
hard to
colors.
see, but if it's my recollection is correct, it's the skulls that rain down. out of the
Oh.
sky.
Yeah, it might be more visible from the other players' perspectives.
But the pentagram comes on it as well there. You can see the pentagram selected on your target as well. Okay, let's listen to this lovely looking voice pack then next.
Lovely sounding.
Woo. Woo. I will accept it. Exquisite. I am the Maiden of the Damned. Attack the Titan. I have an army at my command. I feast on your misery. Why was the teenage necromancer so emotional? Because he lives with his mummy.
God, okay.
My mother once told me to make some acquaintances, so I did, with the dead.
Right.
And this one, just so as I'm reading, it really appears this is going to be a direct purchase as well, which is really exciting.
Oh
I
my
believe
gosh,
so.
direct
That's
purchase.
what I've been told.
I believe so.
I'm afraid.
Listen,
I'm
listen.
afraid.
You can
Because
blame me.
people are sensitive
If
about
we're
Nuwa.
wrong,
Blame Hindu man if you're wrong.
will
It's
never-
fine. I'll take it on the chin and tell you to shut up and just buy the chest it's in if it is. Okay?
She
I
is
don't care.
the-
I'll say it.
No more exclusives for Nuwa. This
Or is it? Dun dun dun. Find out in the
I
next
mean,
episode of.
We'll probably do
now
one.
that's the one that's going to get you in trouble.
Probably do one eventually. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I take that back. Eventually. we
AJ
might,
says
but-
nothing about Nuwa. Stay tuned on how the skin is acquired.
Okay, next up
Tweet
then.
Tina about it.
This is going to be one of the Odyssey items. It's going to be the Void Piercer Amusen Carb. Now, a lot of people are talking about the skin, how it looks and is in-game. I've not seen anything to do with this shit, just this card art. So.
When you need a Void pierced.
He's your man.
So the first stop in the Odyssey is the Mayan section.
The helmet is dope.
Each patch of
His
the
weapon.
Odyssey will cover a different pantheon as we go through our journey across the
Ooh,
world
is it the
and
hive?
follow Ares and Athena and their journey. So you saw in the story, he was fighting Chalk.
Look at that fucking
Mayan
hive.
themed. So we're going to have Mayan themed skins
13 months, baby.
during this patch.
Is that hive that I just saw next to him?
Thank you,
Those
Evan.
hives
Yes,
look
those are his
amazing.
hives. Yeah, we
Holy
spoiled
moly.
those on Twitter earlier. They're super badass.
A measured amount of skulls.
Yeah.
Techno
skulls.
skulls.
Oh yeah, what were you saying about only like a reasonable amount of skulls?
Reasonable percentage.
I only.
We've been on a dry spell for a long time.
Skulls are appropriate,
So-
you know.
Papa's actually finding every single skull on the skin. Right.
Yeah.
And there's actually quite a lot of them.
There's a lot.
But it's a
couple.
reasonable amount.
In Chuck's world, that's a handful.
Yeah. And this skin turned out really
Future
cool.
race of beings loves
Ooh,
to
nice
decorate
autos.
their armor.
Yeah, he's got a
Skulls of their fallen.
unique theme of futuristic and a little bit of fantasy. Mm-hmm. And
Kind of a dystopian.
yeah, like an evil alien conqueror, dystopian stuff.
And he has hover sticks.
Hover sticks?
Instead of like flappy wings, he's got
Oh, I
kind of
see.
some hover sticks.
I like those.
I like the contrast between kind of the flappier elements
Hover
of his
stick? What?
cloth and these rigid, like metallic kind of structures. It's cool.
And that's a pretty cool space ball.
It is.
Can you? I want to see the ball.
Kind of hard
Space
to see.
ball.
Show me the ball.
Smite patch
Pawn.
for 17 Spaceballs. He's slow-moing it. You know what happens to effects when he does that.
Slow motion
Could
balls.
potentially cause
It
problems.
does
with
go.
Oh,
Okay, it works.
It
Worth.
looks pretty good.
That was worth getting the
Should've
slam off of
not
that.
For the
said
sound
anything
effects.
about skulls.
What was that? Yeah. I did not know it was a skull, too.
All right.
I bet you the guy that sits next to the guy is like, "Hey man, can you share that skull model on Perforce for me? Watch this."
And there's a stinger as well.
It looks
I
like
bet
there's
that's
some
a
cool
skull as well.
animation scaling
Or
on his
something. It looked kinda
arm
like a skull.
as he throws it. It looks really nice.
Oh, what the fuck? That's dope.
All powered up and big.
I like the color scheme on that stinger. That's really cool.
Oh man,
Pawn,
a
don't
lot
hit.
of stabbing.
Yeah.
Plenty of stabbing.
Impaled. There's the impale. Really cool.
Well, it's got a voice pack. We heard some of the lines from it, but let's listen to the whole voice pack.
Let's do it.
That's a good one.
Not what I expected. Ravishing. I am all powerful. Ravishing. I shall drain you of your power. I will have fun ripping your heart out.
That's very
I
straightforward.
long for blood.
Indeed.
You will make a good sacrifice. It's really hard for me to make friends. I just end up taking their life.
Is that even a
Too
joke?
much time spent for ultimate power.
Edgelord
And not
confession.
enough time socializing.
That's a really good looking skin. And do you like the looks of that one?
His jokes were all about how
Cool skin.
depressing it is to be like an evil, murdering
Emo.
emo
Yeah.
sci-fi.
I mean,
I have no
Murdering-
friends because I killed them all.
interesting.
Precisely.
It's an interesting character to write jokes for. You gotta reach out, try some new things.
Well, that's going to be in the Odyssey, but it's not only him that's going to be in the Odyssey. It's also going to be
But wait,
Dog
there's more.
Tech.
This one's really cool.
Chuck. He gives the
Robot Chuck.
immediately gives me the vibe of the Thor Tier 5 skin that we did, along the same sort of lines.
Or
as that.
Thanatos Reaper
And
Tech.
Thanatos as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Line
he's
of
joining the
shares
army.
a naming
skins.
convention.
Yes,
Holy
we have
fuck.
we have an kind of
That is a
particular
really
Japanese
good
robot
skin.
aesthetic that we like to use on our
Yeah.
Smite.
His naming convention spells the
Japanese
tech
robots.
like the Thanatos tech because no one's as fancy as Ragnarok Force Thor.
Yeah.
So he's a storm tech.
It's tough to compete against.
But we were brainstorming for this and we were like,
That's a
this kind
damn
of giant
good
axe is
skin.
not a type of weapon we ever think of or see on this type of character. We're like, that would just be really cool.
And I was actually even skeptical. I was like, I don't know about this robo axe. And then, you know,
And now you can see what it looks
pretty
like.
I
cool.
love
Yeah.
all the details on it, like the plasma trail when he swings it, and the little like electrical discharge when he hits someone with it.
See, like Like a nice discharge.
He like turns into like a little ship or something while he's flying.
Slow-mo that one.
Thank you, Ludacris. Welcome back.
Maybe?
It also feels like it'd be cooler if you're going forward.
Oh, super speed mode.
Oh, he's gonna...
Oh no. Oh, you broke it,
You
Pod.
broke it, Pod.
You broke it with your hacks. But we could see it for a little bit. It's pretty cool.
I've not seen this until just now. This particular thing.
Who snuck this in without telling Chuck?
Are you happy with it, Chuck?
I don't know what it's
people
doing.
getting
Oh, the
Fired
rain.
over
Wait. Look for the code rain.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I do like that.
The code rain is super bad.
Bro, this is a really good skin. What the fuck?
Okay, Theo.
That's Cypher.
Fish is the one, by the way.
And then the ultimate. I like that skin.
This is a good skin.
Very cool skin. Part of the Odyssey. You buy it, you'll get your collection bonuses.
Do
This
the,
or
do
the
the thing
AMC.
again.
Do the
No, turn into the
Chuck
whatever.
Chuck wants to see the
Yeah,
two.
the gun too.
Walk a reasonable amount back, face it, and then see that looks
Yeah.
Huh.
It's
It's like
like
a transformer.
robots in the sky. So they say.
I put the kind of in there for safety rather than...
Yeah. It's not really.
it safe. That's how that works. Yeah.
It does when I do this. That's
He
all
doesn't turn into a vehicle or animal, so I think we're safe.
Okay, voice plaque, please.
Yes, yes, you are phenomenal, exceptional. I shall protect them. You will not ravage this planet. You have no heart.
I like him drawing the
Why is it that mechs never get scared? Because we have nerves of steel.
I don't know, a little bit like a Transformer voice back.
Or missing. It might be missing.
Sounding like exactly like Optimus Prime.
Very heroic protector character here.
Awesome. Right, well, that's it for skins. Now, I will just let you know a couple of details I've got written down here about the Odyssey for you guys at home. Obviously, it's a lot like last year, as we mentioned. The Odyssey points and Odyssey levels. Gain Odyssey levels by earning Odyssey points through completing quests and or buying Odyssey items. The collection bonus, players will get a free item every every 3 Odyssey levels as a bonus. Collection bonus items can be earned by questing, and Odyssey quests, 7 quests, will be released in every Odyssey patch. So that's for you guys at home to know that.
Same quest system as last year. 7 quests per patch. Only can do 1 quest per day. So remember to do your quests.
But that's not all we've got this patch, because it's time to unveil a new god to the battleground.
There's more?
There is more.
These gifts never.
Ooh.
Who's it going to be this week? It's Hachiman. Hopefully we've got the card out
Everybody
available.
guessed.
There we go. Got it. That's good. So, as always with the new gods, we have you guys on the desk to talk us through exactly what's going to go down here. Fishman, I'm going to start with you as always, because you are the Japanese man, as I always like to call you, as in the man of all the myths and knowledge of Japan.
I think I'm going, Jeff.
What is Hachiman's lore?
So,
Where's he come from?
Hachiman's an interesting one because his lore actually changed over centuries of worship. So he starts out as kind of an oracular deity, like if you need to know what's going to come up in the court or whatever, he's the guy you pray to get some vision, some insight into that. After Buddhism arrives in Japan, he gets turned into a bodhisattva and is worshipped as an aspect of Buddha. He gets turned also into a deification of a living emperor, Emperor Ojin. So his story starts that with actually his mother, the Empress Jingu, whose husband is fighting a war when he gets killed. But she's like, well, we've put too much into this. We're gonna win this war. So she, while with child, takes a stone and wraps a rope around the bottom of her belly so that she can't give birth to Ojin until she's done fighting and winning this war.
Okay.
And she fights for like 3 years with him just sitting there like waiting. He's like, I'm ready, you guys. And she's like, no, I'm not done. So she wins this war. She finally takes it out. He pops out, and she's praying. She's like, let him be a god. I feel like this one's special. Let him be a god. And there are a couple of signs that he might be a god. 8 heavenly banners descend from the sky
Randomly.
and he has a birthmark on his
Just
arm
randomly.
of a bow guard. foretelling that he will be good at archery.
Oh, really?
In fact, what you got, Chuck? You look like you have a question.
Doesn't it seem like
Finally back from my holiday. It's been a while and feels good to be back.
Don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home. $5, brother.
This is not one was like, that sounds
Disclaimer right
inconvenient.
Put
This
it
is
at
not the
bottom of
level she
screen.
was on, right?
Do not try this at home. Please do not attempt.
So we should be able to go
kid
game.
comes out, he's like,
There's a little more.
Oh, there's a lot more?
There's a little more.
Sorry.
After even after that, one of the samurai, Minamoto no Yoshie, who's of the Genji clan. Genji is just the symbols for Minamoto clan. So if you're familiar with either of those, he is leading another war, and he decides, you know what? I'm pretty sure my great grandfather was Hachiman. So I'm going to pray to him because we're out of food, we're out of water, we're in trouble. So he prays to Hachiman. He gets a vision. He's told to shoot an arrow into a rock. He shoots it. Water springs out. He has water for his troops. They win their war too. Let's see him in game.
Yeah.
Look at Fishman doing my job for me. They used to. But Chuck,
Okay,
he is an archer and a samurai.
with all this knowledge, what was the main idea? Obviously, he was an archer and a samurai, so you went with classical Japanese samurai archery style.
Yes.
This is sick. What,
Precisely.
does he use a sword
Makes a lot of
too?
sense. Was there anything specific that you were looking to try and do with this? Was there anything tricky to do with this god design?
Holy fuck.
We wanted to kind of
Bro, his ability
we
art
wanted
looks
to
awesome.
do the mounted archer samurai thing,
God,
and
looks
we
dope.
wanted to have the sword also be an element. So, we were just trying to capture that warrior archer mystique.
There's some specifics about
Okay,
the bow.
I don't like those
which I know Fish
autos.
could elaborate on historic accuracy of it.
Why is his bow
it's
to the right and the
definitely,
autos come out of the middle?
Japanese bow is uniquely proportioned. It's shorter on the bottom and longer at the top.
Yeah,
instead
that
of,
looks
drawn
better,
from
but
the
not when
center,
he's walking the other
so
way.
that you can ride on horseback and the lower part will not get bumped into by your legs or the horse, and you can fire a longbow from on top of a horse.
Interesting.
Right, so you'll see that reflected here in the bow. Although, of course, we also jazzed it up a bit, added those dragon details, which you'll see soon in his kit. There's a little bit more of that. And then we really just drew on a lot of, the traditional samurai appearance.
I do like his run, though. It's kind of like he's
and
running into
the
a fight
armor
or
on
something.
the shoulders, back, waist.
Now, Fishman, I'm coming to you first then, because I guess we start talking about this god. First of all, clearly it's a hunter because he has a freaking bow,
He's
right?
got a freaking bow. Most of our hunters actually have bows. He's got a bow. He's probably a hunter. Yeah.
Job done.
True
One job,
story.
one done.
Yeah.
Next up, though, what's his passive?
Oh,
I really like
so
the shooting noise.
If you will notice, like most samurai, he is both proficient in bow and sword. He's got a sword on him. So his passive is Master of Arms.
Okay.
And what that's going to do is he's going to grow stronger as he attacks enemies. Namely, he's going to gain stacks of MP5 for each successful basic attack he lands, so that he can use his abilities more often.
Gotcha. So he's all about trying to keep this combat going just to keep himself sustained to continue using more and more.
That's right.
Okay. Well, with that, we can move on to the first ability, and this is called Eagle Eye, AJ.
This is a very interesting ability. So this is one of the earlier ones when we started designing this god. So it is a basic attack stim that's going to give him bonus damage on his basic attacks, as well as up to 3, ranking up to 4 shots. And these are going to be actual basic attacks that travel much further than regular basic attacks.
Okay.
So what this is, he activates it, and then his next 3 to 4 basic attacks will travel further. They will still crit. They will still apply basic attack in item effects.
Okay.
But you can now shoot them 80 units.
So when you're trying to kill that guy, and then he does a leap, and he tries to get away, and you're like, hold my beer.
And you will shoot
Do
these
they go through
giant
walls?
dragon
They do
arrows.
not go
No.
Okay.
There's one other clarification. Just like Mercury's abilities, which crit and proc basic attacks, his are technically abilities and thus do not affect towers from outside tower aggro.
So they don't hit towers,
that's
but they will
awesome.
hit everything
Good
else
call.
as if they were a basic attack.
And they still stop when they hit minions.
They stop when they hit any single target or wall.
And no pierce.
So it's not going to hit
I like
everybody
it.
in
Good
that
job,
cone that he's
Iris.
firing
No,
through there.
just one target.
Okay.
And they will look like cool dragon flying arrows instead of his
Iris
regular.
did a good
Now,
job.
with this ability as well, at the moment, it's looking like it's going to be 3 shots until you level it up further, and then there'll be 4 shots you get
It's
later.
a 3-3-3-4-4.
Yeah.
And there's also bonus damage off on each shot, and that bonus damage is going to give you more bonus damage if you shoot someone within 55 units.
Okay.
So he essentially gets 2 levels of bonus damage. One is inside of the range, and one is outside the
So normal basic attack range means extra damage outside of it, a little bit less, but still some damage.
And this bonus damage also works like Je Blanque's, where it factors in to the basic attack damage beforehand, which means it can be affected by critical critical strike items.
So if you crit on a close-up version of this shot, you're going to get more damage than you would from a regular in-hand crit.
Correct. Or you'll still do more even in the long range, just not as much as you would with a close range stemmed shot.
Well, okay, Pawn was blowing my mind here with 3 different sets of numbers, but it's totally his items that he's bought.
He's got Hydras.
So it's only 2.
Is that who gets that? Is that did you put that in the guide for him? Okay, well then that's cool. It's cool.
Well, Fish, back to you again, because next ability you mentioned about the lore and the banners coming down. Right. This is the next ability. It's called Heavenly Banner. What does it do?
So first, look at this targeter. We got a targeter that looks a lot like our classic circle targeter, but in fact we got an octagonal targeter.
Ooh.
8
to throw out the 8. But he's gonna conjure a banner down at the area of his choosing. It can do damage to enemies.
Okay.
And it can also increase attack speed to allies who are in it. Anytime he summons the banner,
pushing towers,
he gets some attack speed, and if he stands in the area of the banner, he benefits from both the intrinsic that he gets for firing it, as well as the area that his allies get. So he can get twice as much as his allies.
So he doesn't have to stand in the circle to benefit.
But he will get more if he stands in the circle.
So friends who walk in that will get an attack speed buff. If he walks through it, he gets an additional attack speed buff to the one that he got for just throwing it.
Right, so when you're running away from Hachiman and you see the banner fall down in front of you,
cast your AoEs on that spot and try to force him out.
Yeah, this is his more traditional lane clear ability, but also his attack speed stem, which is a really unique combination that we haven't seen before in Hunter, having both of those. So you have to make some interesting choices about where to place this, especially when like sieging towers. You can wait for the perfect time for the minions to walk by and drop it, hit all of them, and then still be in a spot to stand in while you siege the towers. Feels really good. Especially really good against Gold Fury and Fire Giant as well.
Yep, any objectives towers.
Literally an objective killing god, dude. Him on Gold Fury and towers would be insane.
With this guy too. Like, I love the basic attack sound and the banner smashing down.
Yeah, that heavier bow
dude,
sound.
Fafnir, Shogun.
It's looking like a main thingy already. But there's only 2 abilities in the passive.
Main.
I mean, change. 3.
Oh, it's 15 on both? That's pretty crazy.
EI Jutsu, sorry.
EI Jutsu.
I was trying to learn it because before we went live, Fish Moment, it's like EIEIO. And I was like, okay, I've got to remember that.
I hate abilities that look
That's
like
a good
this.
way of remembering it.
It works out.
I might have forgotten how to pronounce it, actually.
So, AJ, what is this? This target looks very interesting.
Yeah, this is his sword ability, which, of course, we really wanted in the kit. This is a short-range dash followed by a circle attack.
Okay.
So he'll execute both in a row really quickly. And this does damage and passes through targets.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is if you hit an enemy with both components, you will stun them for 1 second at all ranks. So in that case, where you got hit by the line and the circle, just that little sweet spot, which is relatively a small area, if you get hit by that, you'll stun people.
Well, that's tricky.
That's
tricky.
I've pulled it off a few times in playtesting. It's been fun.
No, I'm not sad about it being tricky. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
In my experience, the trick is to ignore the circle entirely, because if you hit them with the dash, you will almost certainly hit them with the circle.
Aim with the line. But it's a relatively short dash. With a good bit of animation time, so he's not quite as mobile as some other hunters.
I mean, you're putting your hunter into
melee
combat,
not
which
a
is also
CC
very
hunter.
risky
He's a
too,
fucking objective
Yeah, if you're going to
hunter
use this aggressively, you better be ready to clean up the kill pretty quickly afterwards.
Have a way to escape.
Now you drop the banner on him, and then you
and then you're fighting in here with all your
what's his
stims.
ultimate?
And then when they run away, you do the long shot.
I mean, you don't just have to do the long shot, my friend, because I heard
chase him down.
I've seen the name of this ultimate. I think it's time for Fishman to introduce this ultimate.
So we've got an archer with a bow specifically for riding horses, and we have a guy who's kind of famous for mounted archery. So we figured we'd just call the ability mounted archery and put him on a horse.
Let's go. Let's see it.
Now,
oh my God! Look.
The interesting thing here, he only gets 1 shot, but the interesting thing is he can actually aim separate from the direction he's traveling. He can steer the horse with one of the sticks or WASD, and then he can control the aim with his mouse or the other stick.
And if they're in the cone when you fire, it's going to hit them.
That's right. It fires a seeking projectile at quite a distance at every enemy in range, which you'll see the markers over their head to let you know this is how many guys.
Wait, does it hit multiple people?
Which ones?
What?
This ability definitely takes some high skill cap to really master controlling the horse.
So
and even just finding the right timing to use the ability. It's best to use when you're on your way to a fight as your first thing when you show up to engage, or really to run someone down who's escaping.
Right, or when you come
CC
back
immune,
from
right?
respawn and there's a
Yeah,
fight
he's
at the
CC
tower,
immune.
you're like, yeah.
when your first game with
nuts, dude. You can turn around while running away and fire that shit, bro.
People in front of you and use it to escape.
You can legitimately run away, turn around, fire that shit while running away. All CCMU.
Separately.
Holy titty balls.
When I'm looking at this animation right now, once he's fired the shot, he immediately starts to dismount animation. Is that right?
That's right. So
how long does it actually last for if you don't fire?
So the full dash is 3.2 seconds, and I'm actually not seeing the timers filled, but we'll.
Yeah, you need a timer on that shit for sure.
We will definitely yeah. But there's a timer on the sides of that cone showing you how long you got, and when you reach the end, as long as you have targets in range,
you can go slow
fire
too.
at
Yeah, that's fucking sick.
Okay, cool.
Before you dismount, you won't like accidentally run out of time.
This is pretty cool.
But the moment you mount, you could fire, but it'll immediately start the dismount.
His abilities are really
up to
awesome.
3.2 seconds, or the moment you fire. It also applies a slow that lasts for 1.5 seconds after and ranks up.
I'm interested to see if he's weak or strong.
So, play style. I mean, obviously he's going to be a hunter. So
it's cool. I don't know if it's good.
And most hunters can probably solo in certain scenarios too. But definitely look at the hunter role. How has he been working out against some of the other hunters, you know, in the meta, would you say?
His clear seems kind of weak.
He's really positioning based, right? So he's got a lot of tools at his disposal. If he can use them and get off to a lead, he does very well.
I don't know. Maybe he's not weak if you can sit in the wave with your 2.
So if he can get there comfortably, then he's in a
I
great
forgot
spot.
your 2 is AoE. It's just small.
But, he also has some weaknesses.
Thank you, JC.
Inside of his long range, that 1 is a little bit less useful. Then his, the damage of his 2 kind of falls off as the game goes on. The dash isn't super long range, and the ultimate, you can use it either to engage or to escape, and you might sacrifice that engage potential if you have to use it to get out. So he's definitely got some punishment in there.
He has some interesting dynamics as a hunter in the fact that he can actually buff his teammates' attack speed, which is a very unique thing as a hunter. So you really want to be there to help objectives. Hunters already want to be there most of the case, but Hachiman has even more reason to be there for the whole fight. And we've felt that he generally peaks a little bit later in the game. Really, once you get the ability to hit big damage off of his long-range shots. His 2
I'm excited to play him on PTS. I hope
so
PTS is up
through the
tonight.
early game, but he really shines.
He's going to be fun as shit. We're going to be playing him in the jungle.
In terms of very ability-focused hunter, would you say that in terms of playstyle, or does he feel more auto-attack?
He feels more auto-attacky to me because both of his 2 and his 1 play, even though his 1's technically not basic attacks, it plays just like basic attacks, it scales like basic attacks, and his 2 accentuates basic attacks.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's going to be a mid.
Abilities are very high utility.
Kind of like a Chiron type.
Even if you don't put points in them, you can still dash and you can still ride the horse to get where you're trying to go.
And then immediately get off and go back to basic attacking. So, yeah.
And Pon showed something cool there for a second, which is you can activate the 1 and fire other abilities, and then continue to use the 1.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
It's more like
so.
an ammo counter, which we've seen in Jingwei, Thoth, Medusa, etc. So you can mix that in between your abilities. You can save those shots for a long time if you want, but you'll need to fire them to get the cooldown started, so you don't really want to sit on 1 arrow for a long time.
I wonder what the cooldowns are,
Ryan,
too.
Our programmer did some nice tech where you can have the 1 active, target the 2 or the 3, cancel it, and the 1 will still be active. It doesn't cancel the toggle when you're trying to cancel.
SPL starts this weekend.
Ability, so very cool guy.
Now he just come with a clap and a wave. I'm going to just surprise Pan and see if he's got him now.
Oh, geez.
Hey, Pan, you got the clap and the wave on?
He does not.
He does.
Oh, hello, Hachiman.
Hello, Hachiman. And, of course, he also has a voice pack as long as Pom Pom has bought
Oh,
it.
yeah.
We should have a listen.
So Hindu, I got
it. Yosha! Yosha! You truly know your role. Victory is near. Sashawa Saikoda! Sashawa Saikoda! Sashawa Saikoda! Sashawa Saikoda! True strength comes from discipline, and you lack both. He who is righteous and just will triumph. In my country, bakers make bread using bushi dough.
Okay.
Watch out!
Okay.
Time for
That's a good one.
A samurai. Never mind.
So does that "I'm the greatest" literally translate to "I'm the greatest," or is it something similar?
It's "I'm the greatest."
It's "I'm the greatest."
I was kind of hoping Tina did the translation, and we never knew what it really said, but it was something not made for games. I thought it would have been great.
I mean, I could sneak those in and say they were whatever I wanted, and
I am actually. I don't think this god's OP, but I think his kit's cool, and I'm excited to play him on
first of all, hopefully,
on the PTS tonight.
For the recolor that comes with Hachiman, and this is a green version. Of
course.
You have to have some of the other versions. I like the look of that one too.
We kind of went with a very, white paladin-y color scheme with a little bit of green accent.
Little bit of a green.
Why did he have to say that?
Quite a bit of green there.
There's less
like
green.
There's a little bit of skulls.
There's less green than skulls.
It doesn't have that many skulls, I guess.
He does have some demonic faces, though.
He does on his belt.
But that shit is historically accurate.
That's awesome.
Big Mars, stay safe, brother.
Yeah, the green.
I like the green.
I like it too. I'm a big fan.
Man, there are a lot of
I don't know if I like it more.
Of his outfit that I just really like the bead necklace and the classic male spirit horns on his helmet. Just a lot of details that I really like.
His bow and his quiver, I believe, too, were pretty historically researched.
Yeah, we went
archery.
very, very historical on the mounted samurai bowman. I mean, we mixed some elements together, but they all have their origins in Japanese armor and armaments.
The green horse.
I love how it turned out.
The horse is really cool too. He's got a pretty scary armor set, and he's got a lot of horns and spikes. And,
you can see.
Pon's slowing it down, right?
Yep,
that's not actually him slowing it down for our view. It's actually just how slow. Oh, that's it.
No, you can control it kind of like Guan's horse. If you hold back while you're moving, you can slow the horse down.
And a pretty fun piece of Smite God development trivia.
Oh, yeah, there he is.
Look at the pony.
Oh no.
So can we get a Chiron underneath Hachiman at some point and make it a super skin?
Kairachiman.
Ride Chiron. Kairachiman.
I was trying to tell a story.
I'm sorry.
And you just came in and were like,
Go on, tell the story.
Gonna ride Chiron.
Tell the story, Chuck.
Chiron gonna wear a helmet.
Tell us the story.
Tell the story, Chuck.
Tell a story.
Just fancy.
So
tell me when patch or
we
PTS
were
is
making
going up.
Hachiman. We had just made a dude that turned into a giant monster and a dude that turned into a bear. And animation and modeling departments were like, dude, you guys got to chill out. And so, but we were like mounted archer. And I was like, I swear, we'll put a skin on Guan Yu's horse, man. It'll do the same horse animation. Come on, you guys, we got this. We can do it. And we did it.
Now,
and it was cool.
Just for clarification, there were a couple of critical shortcuts that we were able to take developing him. It wasn't as simple as, just throw in Guan Yu's horse, slap a coat of paint. Because Reddit will assume it's like, Chuck already told us. All you had to do is just take it in, slap some stuff on it, boom, you got a new horse.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more in depth.
It's a total oversimplification,
yeah.
but that was basically the devil's bargain that we struck.
And the point of that story is that without Chuck, we would not have that horse. Chuck went to bat.
The hero
we thank him for it.
And we really liked actually the Guan Yu Hachiman kind of like implied rivalry here as the Chinese and Japanese gods of war, and that both ride horses in very similar ways with controls. I really like the parallels there between our own characters in the game. At the same time, we're introducing more lore. Now we have some softer things that are just in the game that are rough
riding the
call-outs to each
horse
other.
is fun.
And we in no way during playtesting selected Guan Yu an abnormally high number of times so we could yell horse fight mid-test.
The whole time. And it's all at the same time.
It's like a literal joust where you have two guys on horses. It's really fun.
The other thing we didn't actually mention about the mounted archery, by the way, is it does give a slow. Correct.
Yeah,
I don't remember saying it, but it does. It's a scale and slow, but it's a slow that when you do fire that, it's basically
1.5 seconds.
So he's only got
25 to 45%.
2 CCs technically. He's got the stun from
1.5,
EI Jutsu, which is very tricky to use and a slow, but long range.
So one's conditional and the other one's on a 90-second cooldown.
He's definitely low CC compared to hunters like Kerninos and Scotty and stuff have come out recently.
So first question,
Fuck Scotty.
PTS one.
As soon as we can.
Follow Hi-Res Chris on Twitter.
Tell me tonight.
Sometimes it's right now. Sometimes
Chris Larson.
Stuff's on fire.
Tonight. I just need it after scrims.
That's the first one. And second of all, we're not really going to be doing Q&A this week just because we've got the caster premiering coming up very, very soon.
How much time do we have?
A couple of minutes. But if you've got anything you can discuss, we could probably go over real quick.
I don't know. We were just going to talk about more Hachiman stuff and
stuff?
We didn't talk about all the Odyssey things. Did we say what the bonus rewards are? Do we have that down?
I don't have those down. I've not been given them. Oh, maybe I haven't. Maybe I was lying.
We're trying to kill time.
We have the 2 skins, which are the purchasable Odyssey, but then we have the Odyssey collection rewards.
Odyssey items this patch will be the Void Piercer Amuse and Carb skin, the Storm Tech Chuck,
because you
want some Toth avatar.
You want some? You guys know what that's like if you follow on Reddit and Twitter. It's the you want some. Some book. You want
items.
some book.
The bonus items will be the cutesy avatar chest roll and fire and ice loading frame.
Yeah, the fire and ice loading frame is really cool.
You pronounced the icon wrong though. It's you want some book?
Book.
Like a chicken. Buck.
And then he does it better than me.
It says you want some question mark.
Yeah, it's just called the you want some.
Book.
But the icon is the thought face that says you want some book.
Okay.
Because he's got a book.
Oh, I got it.
So, wait, that's purchasable? Or
Totally
that's
not a
bonus?
reference.
I don't have it whether it's purchasable.
One says bonus items.
Who wants some
bonus items, cutesy and fire and ice loading
So the
frame.
icon and the 2 skins are the ones you can buy to get the points.
Gotcha.
The bonus items that you can earn for free through quests or when you buy the other ones are the cutesy avatar chest roll
and the fire
and ice loading frame. So you're going to see a lot of fire and ice themed stuff throughout this Odyssey as well. You'll notice the icon with the ship has a little more fire and ice added to it. This is theming towards our tier 5 Uller skin.
Okay.
So you'll see the fire and ice loading frame. You'll see it a couple more times in the Odyssey. The loading frame is really cool. It like starts all icy and frosty, and as you load in, it like fuse kind of burns up and turns magma.
If only we had someone that could show us on screen, but we don't.
We'll tweet it. We'll tweet it or something.
we didn't work that bit out as far.
It's also like the previous Odyssey
Let's
icons. It's got a Pantheon symbol at the top, and as we visit more Pantheons in the Odyssey, that'll start to cycle through their symbols of all the other Pantheons. So it's like super evolving.
Favorite thing in this patch?
I mean, Hachiman, new god, bro.
I'm not surprised. What about you, AJ?
I got a hipster answer, which I think is the RTO tier 2 or the Nuwa tier 3 because one Nuwa people have been wanting for a long time.